The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Thank you for joining us on Farm Connections. I'm Dan Hoffman, and I'm pleased to introduce our guests tonight. On my immediate right, Meg Mohan and Tara Meyer. And tonight we're going to talk about consumer education about food and farming. And as more and more people get interested in this, we're so happy to have expert guests. Meg, would you tell us just a little bit about your background?
I will. I will tell you that I am a dairy farmer in training. I am engaged to a dairy farmer in northern LeSueur County. And so we are farming together. I have an off-farm job right now as well, and different living arrangements. But we are on a waiting list for the Organic Valley truck. And so looking very forward to having our name come up and to be able to ship organic milk. We milk about 57 cows right now. And are, I think, going to try to get up to about 100, but I think we'll probably stop there. And I came to agriculture just briefly, kind of through a backdoor route. I was an urban girl. I grew up in Milwaukee, big Packer fan. Went to college, and then I went to the Peace Corps, and I was in northern Thailand and living in an agricultural culture for the first time in my life, and was just captivated by the excitement of it and some of the challenges, and wanted to get more involved. So I came back, did some more schooling, got into agriculture, and met this wonderful dairy farmer.
Great.
That is my story.
What an interesting journey. And we're going to hear more about that in a minute.
Okay.
Tara.
I'm Tara Meyer. I'm the Executive Director for the Minnesota Farm and Food Coalition. Been doing that for 3 years, and I wear several different hats this evening. I, too, am a dairy farmer. My husband and I dairy farm just south of Sauk Center on his parents' home farm. They did a farm transfer in 2003. We milk 170 cows there, and I was born in Faribault, Minnesota, and grew up on a hog and dairy farm there in crops. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Meg, so you've got this organic dairy farm. What's the mission of the farm? What makes that different than something that's not organic?
Well, organic is a type of farming that now has a legal definition, according to the USDA, but it is based on mimicking nature to the greatest extent possible. There's a lot of emphasis on, in terms of dairy farming, on natural behaviors for livestock, on the livestock going outside, being on pasture, eating feed that hasn't been treated with pesticides or synthetic fertilizers, and really, as I said, mimicking nature. And we're held to very high standards. We submit documentation and records. I know you're no stranger to record keeping.
Right.
We submit records, and we have to have on-farm inspection once a year, at least once a year, so that the people that buy our products have assurance that we are following the rules and doing what we say we're doing.
Who polices or governs that?
Well, it's a little complicated. There is a law of the land. The USDA in Washington, D.C. has a national organic program with standards that came into effect in 2002. So we've had national standards, and then the USDA accredits organizations or sometimes state departments of agriculture to do that certifying work and be the independent eyes that go out to certify the farm or sometimes manufacturing facility to make sure that is. And then, too, we have farmers that police each other and keep an eye to make sure that nobody is slipping anything through the cracks. Everybody realizes that for organic to retain its value in the marketplace, people need to believe in that word. And so there's a high standard of ethics there.
To protect the market.
To protect the market, yes, and to protect how we feel about what we're doing.
How do you feel about what you're doing?
I feel great.
Good.
I feel great. It's, for us, to a large extent, it's kind of a, I don't know if I'd say quality of life or type of work that we want to do. Job satisfaction, I think, is a good way of saying it. You know, we farm in the way that's what we want to get up and do in the morning.
My wife and I and firstborn lived in LeSueur County, so we know a few things about that. And there is some urban encroachment maybe from the north. How does a farm, and a specifically organic farm, fit into that?
We have some friends just over the border in Scott County that really have had to wrestle with that because they're rapidly urbanizing. And I think one of the things we do is try to be good farm neighbors, and realizing that sometimes farmers are our neighbors and sometimes non-farmers are our neighbors. We want to get to know those people and establish trust and be good neighbors to them. So I think that that's part of it. And I think too, helping local units of government and local businesses understand what we bring as farmers economically to the township or the county. I think that's very important too, because people, I think we're all worried about rural vibrancy, and we want to see more people in rural communities, more people on the landscape, and I would like that to mean more farmers.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Tara,
Absolutely.
how do you fit into that? What does your farm do to educate consumers about food and farming?
You know, we're very proud to be fourth generation dairy farmers, and we have an open door policy. Anyone who wants to come in and see our day-to-day farming activities, we are more than welcome to educate not only farmers who may be looking at upgrading facilities, transitioning out of a tie stall barn into a freestall barn type system, and look at ours as maybe some opportunities or suggestions to make that transition, as well as opening our doors to consumers to give them the opportunity to get up close and personal with our cows, see what they're eating, learn about those rations, learn about the care for baby calves and why it's important to get them colostrum within the first 2 hours of when they're born, and just really getting consumers giving them that hands-on opportunity to see what happens on today's farms, because I think as we have less and less farmers, less than 1% of our population is now actively engaged in farming, and there's 99% of the people in the U.S. and the world that don't have that hands-on opportunity. So the more we can open our door and provide consumers the opportunity to come in and meet with us. And same thing with neighbors. We, in Sauk Center and Stearns County, we're obviously the largest dairy county in the state, and in the top 20 in the nation. And so we have a lot of dairy farm neighbors. So we're fortunate, a lot of young couples our age. We have a lot of camaraderie built with those neighbors, and we're in an area where we are somewhat rural. We're in close proximity of St. Cloud, but we're not feeling some of the same urbanization, if you will, as you do in the Scott County or the Seward County area. So we're I don't know if you want to say fortunate that way, but there's a lot of opportunities in both situations.
Now, at some point when both of us are able to farm, I mean, Kevin and I are able to farm, I would like to do more of what Tara does on her farm and open it up and have people come in. I'm wondering, what is the most common misconception that you get when people come to the farm? You know, they're coming to a dairy farm and learning about cows. Is there a most common misconception?
Yeah, you know, it really depends on the group and their knowledge level. Sometimes you'll get a question, if we have a calf that's just born, well, why are you taking that calf away from the mother? And explaining to them, you know, we want to get the calf isolated, get the colostrum so it can get that immunity from the IDGs from the cow, and get it into the clean, sanitized pen with fresh bedding, so that we can then take the cow and put her into the productive milking line and to become a productive member of the herd. And so, you know, sometimes it depends on what's going on at the farm at the particular time as we're walking them through the tour. As questions are asked, people are always fascinated to come into a parlor. A lot of people, maybe grandpa had a tie stall barn or something, so to see how the cows come into the parlor, see the units, and they're always fascinated to actually see the milk and learn how it goes to the bulk tank, and learn that process of the truck coming and picking it up, taking it to the processing plant, pasteurizing it, and then you pick it up at the grocery store. You know, some kids, well, my milk didn't come from the grocery store, you know it. And kind of backing them up through the process of farm gate to dinner plate is always exciting as well.
And speaking of where your milk comes from, it just occurs to me, do you know that there's a really cool website called, I think it's whereismymilkfrom.com, and you can look at your carton of milk, and there's a code stamped on the top that corresponds to the processing plant, and there's 2 digits and then a dash and then some more digits. You can type that in, and it will tell you which facility processed your milk. It won't say what farm it came from or maybe what state the milk was raised in. We hope it's all Minnesota milk. But it will tell you the plant, so it's kind of a fun little thing to do.
And again, that website, please?
I believe it is whereismymilkfrom.com.
Thank you.
But I think if you Google where is my milk from, that would pop up too.
Tara, you mentioned some terms that our audience might not be familiar with. I heard tie stall and freestall. Can you elaborate on the differences?
Absolutely. In a tie stall barn, a cow remains in her own stall. So if you let them outside, usually that cow will come back to her stall, and she's actually going to be milked in the stall where she would lay down, where she would ruminate and lay down and rest. Whereas in a freestall farming, you would have cows in a barn where they would eat and lay down in comfortable stalls, and then you bring them to the milking facility area, whereas in a tie stall barn you bring the milkers to the individual cows, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you.
So.
You also mentioned parlor, which would be different than tie stall, freestall. Tell us about the parlor.
Yeah, the parlor is actually where the milking units are going to be, and there'll be individual stalls in the parlor where cows will come in. In our situation, we've got, it's called a double 8 parlor, so we've got 8 cows that milk on each side, and then they are milked as a group of 8, and then they're released to go back and lay down and eat and rest as groups of 8. So we can be milking 16 cows at a time in our parlor.
Sounds productive and busy.
Yes.
You mentioned colostrum, and of course that's the first milk after parturition or birth, but what's special about that milk?
Colostrum has, calves need the immunity from the colostrum. They don't have their immune system is not established when they're born. Similar to humans and their babies, you need to be getting that colostrum from the cow and fed to that calf as soon as possible after birth so that they can get that passive immunity from their mother to get their immune system up and running and prevent them from being exposed to any of the elements that comes with being born into the world. So it's very important to get that cow milked and get the colostrum fed to the calf as soon as possible after birth.
I would add too, it is so important that if for some reason there is extra colostrum, we frequently package it up and freeze it so that should a calf be born and for whatever reason it's not nursing or the mother can't nurse it, we have colostrum that we can warm up in some warm water and give to that calf, because it really is critical for giving them a healthy start in life.
Absolutely.
Thanks. You're resourceful.
See what I'm learning as a beginning dairy farmer?
What was your degree in from college?
Oh my goodness, it was in modern literature and society and in history. So I am a liberal arts girl. I knew nothing about, I didn't take a science course in college. I went to one of those colleges where you didn't have distribution requirements, so I didn't have to take any science, and I didn't want to.
Did you
what a fool I was.
Did you have any vision or inkling that you would be either Peace Corps or on a dairy farm and be a part owner?
No, I thought I would go to New York and I would work in advertising, or I would do something glamorous and drink a lot of martinis. And I had no idea the way my life would go, and I am so glad it has. I really am glad it has.
Well, I'll check with Tara, but don't you agree she's probably doing something rather glamorous?
Absolutely. I was just thinking as you were talking about
I'm a
drinking
television star.
martinis in New York, now you've got a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job providing milk.
And I have a Facebook page, and most of my friends are non-farm people, and they just think it's hilarious, and I tell them the stories of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So you're using Facebook to actually help your friends understand what you're doing?
I am. And the things to me in my life right now that are the most exciting are farm related. So, when calving season started, most of our calves are born in the spring. We're a dairy that's oriented toward the grass. The cows are outside every day, and so we like to key our calving so that the calves come in March and April and a little bit in May when the grass is coming on. So the lactating moms who we want to start milking are out there eating fresh grass and getting all those nutrients. And where did I start this? On something. What did I start talking about?
I'm hoping you tell us what those cows do when it's 40 below in Minnesota.
You know what? And I'll get back to whatever I was talking about. Oh no, I was talking about Facebook, and then I'll tell you about that. So, I tell them about that, or the hauler's coming and the milk volume is going up, and that's exciting, or our somatic cell count is dropped, and that's a measure of the quality of milk, and you want a really low score, and so it goes down to 140 or 120, and you want to tell everyone, even though they don't know what it means, you're proud of it, right? So you want to share it. But when it's 40 degrees below zero, we have a freestall barn at our facility. And the cows really have a choice. They can be in the freestall barn, or they can be out in the yard. And most often they want to be outside. And so they come and they go. They've got hay on the cement lot near where the freestalls are, and they also have hay out in the yard. And they come and go, but they like it out there. It snows, it rains, they're hardy.
As you mentioned them coming and going, just recently we've had some terrible devastation of tornadoes here in Minnesota. And I was sitting in a meeting today where we were talking about a hog farm that experienced some terrible devastation to their barn. And the person that I was talking to said those hogs were fine, but they never left that slatted floor barn. That's where they knew they were safe.
That's what they
and just thinking through, you would think that they would scatter or not know what was going on, but they never left that security of that slatted floor hog barn.
Are you two alluding to that farmers really do care about their animals and they try to treat them humanely?
You bet.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a common misperception that farmers are mistreating their animals, or that farmers are in this for economics only. And I think what we as farmers need to do a better job of is, me personally, telling people that we don't go to bed at night before our dry cows, our cows that are close to having their calves, are checked to make sure that everything is going well. You walk through the barns and make sure all the calves are protected and comfortable and laying down. You know, first thing in the morning, that's what we do. It's a way of life. It's a 24-hour-a-day job, and I have a passion, and I love our cows, and you don't do this if you don't have that pride and that passion in what you're doing every day, and the love for the animals. A quality cow that produces quality milk is a well cared for, healthy cow. And as soon as a producer, you know, if you're a good manager, as soon as a cow would start dropping off on milk or any of those things that are misconceptions out there, you start to lose production. And we all are out here to also, it's our way of life and it's our business, and we need to be able to make a profit in order to stay in business. And so we have to be good managers and care for those animals, otherwise they don't make us a profit either.
And I think it's important to tell the consuming public the truth. And I would hope that it's not a common misconception that farmers treat animals like machinery. I think that there have been bad actors, and I think it's good that those bad actors are sniffed out. Those bad actors are by far in the minority. And so I think it is important to reward the good actors and to get people out onto farms to seeing the conditions that cows live in. I think that's a tremendously important mission, to get people out. I was just up in Rice County over the weekend, and they were having Day on the Farm with the American Dairy Association, Midwest Dairy Association, and people had flooded out to visit the cows, see the freestall barns, see what they eat. They got to visit the parlor where the cows were being milked. This is a three-time-a-day milking farm. And so I think, but I do think it's important to tell people the truth and not sugarcoat stuff. And animals get sick, and animals can be made well again. So it happens.
Absolutely.
Tara, do you belong to some organizations that help tell that story?
Yes, I belong to several. My husband is active in his on the Stearns County local Farm Bureau board. We're Farm Bureau members. We serve on the Stearns County American Dairy Association board. I actually serve as the Dairy Princess coordinator there. And we're also active in several other community organizations as well. And we really feel that that's part of our mission of our farm as well. And to continue on and telling our story, we need to be not only helping the industry go in the right direction, or continuing on the path and being leaders in the industry, but also connecting on our community level, whether it be through church or any other activities that we may be involved with.
And you grew up in Rice County near Faribault to the Salmon family?
Yes, I am. My maiden name is Salmon.
Very, very good. And there was livestock on the salmon farm?
Yes, grew up on a hog and dairy farm, and we sold, my dad sold the cows, and my brother is home farming full time with them, and they expanded their hog farm, so now they are finishing out hogs. So.
And your college experience was?
I graduated from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, St. Paul campus, with a degree in ag marketing with a dairy science minor, and also have a master's of business administration degree. So.
Great.
She's very qualified. I'm just a beginner.
Minnesotan through and through, I guess.
Do you have a website for some of the organizations you belong to, in case people want to do further research after the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make mention of one website, www.dairymakesense.com, which is a great resource. That's a Midwest Dairy, the Dairy Checkoff website, and there's some great opportunities for consumers to go on and meet dairy farm moms. There's several mommy bloggers talking about a day in the life of dairy farming and how do you manage your children and the dairy farm and all of those things, and connecting on the mom level, as well as the Farm Bureau website is fbmn.org. There's lots of resources there on public relations, promotion, education, and then I'd also like to mention our Minnesota Farm and Food Coalition website, mnfarmandfood.org, and we have a lot of commodity videos up on our website. On our front page, you can click to view beef farms, dairy farms, and others in the state, and it's a 5 to 7 minute segment that was just, we just completed the project here last year, so they're current and really giving the consumers an opportunity to view what happens on today's farms here in Minnesota and give them that hands-on learning experience if maybe they don't have the opportunity to travel around the state and see different farms in action.
Well, great resources from both
Lots of
you.
websites
Thank
to
you. And
jot down.
Our audience, if they don't exactly get the website right, they can Google the topic and find much. We have about 7 minutes left, ladies, and if there's anybody in the audience that has a question for you two, I hope they just email it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you'd love to answer some
Yes.
questions. We don't have much time left, so the audience better hurry.
We want to know what your questions are. We want to answer them for you.
I want to talk about one opportunity, if I could,
Please.
that I think people, the viewers might be excited by if they haven't done this already. I'm a member, Kevin and I are members of Minnesota Farmers Union, which is another farm organization that really works to promote independent family farms in the state of Minnesota. And our organization is teamed up with several others to offer a special day at the Minnesota State Fair every year and an event called Minnesota Cooks. And there's a stage. Frequently, the host is Andrew Zimmern, who people may know from the Food Network or the Food Channel. And Minnesota cooks, Minnesota chefs come in and prepare foods with Minnesota-grown products for the audience, and there are tastings. And you know, Andrew Zimmern is just a very engaging personality. But if you're going up to the state fair, why not go on Minnesota Cooks Day and find out a little bit more about what your neighbors are growing or things that you could be cooking in your kitchen with Minnesota-grown products.
Sounds really fun.
It's very fun.
How about the birthing center? Can either of you elaborate on that at the state fair?
Yeah, I certainly can. The Miracle of Birth Center is an excellent opportunity for state fair goers to visit and see baby animals being born. There's dairy cows and vets on hand monitoring the progress of, I believe they have sheep, hogs, dairy, chickens, I believe. But it's one of the largest attractions now at the state fair. So
come early.
And peoples and kids who are viewing as those animals are getting ready to calve or lamb, they have video cameras and big screen TVs. So if you can't get close enough to the action to see it up close and personal, you can see it live on the TVs. And there's families that will wait and wait and wait for those animals to be born, and really a neat opportunity to see the life cycle, if you will, you know, the birth of a new animal coming in and giving them that opportunity to see the animals up close and personal as well.
It's worth a stop.
It is.
It's worth a stop. Recently, the Mower County Farm Bureau sponsored Breakfast on the Farm, and I was able to take that in. It was great. Why should we do that? Why should we bother to go out to the farm and have breakfast and visit with our rural neighbors?
You know, breakfasts on the farms are really becoming popular, and there's more and more of them starting in counties across the state. And it's an ideal situation to give local communities an opportunity to go in and see a farm in action within their own county and meet that farmer, as well as having educational booths. There's children's activities at most of these events across the state. I personally work with the Stearns County Breakfast on the Farm. We had over 1,300 people, the majority from the St. Cloud area, and a lot of those families and kids have never had the opportunity to come onto a farm, and they can meet with farmers, they can take the guided tour, meet with nutritionists, learn about what those cows are eating, learn about the process of getting the milk from that cow into their cups when they have their lunch or dinner. And across the state, these breakfasts on the farms are coming up, and they're becoming annual, and they're becoming very popular with those that don't have the opportunity to have the connection to farming like Meg and I do, and it gives us an opportunity to showcase our pride and passion in our industry.
What a great way to share.
And you know, there are other opportunities, even if there's not a big event scheduled. We belong to an organization called Minnesota Grown, which promotes, it's the oldest buy local program in Minnesota, and it promotes local food. And one of the things it does is produces a directory of farms that sell direct to consumers. So they sell products, and frequently they have participatory things on the farm. They have agritourism or agritainment, or you can see baby animals, you can go through a corn maze, you can pick a pumpkin, you can do some of these hands-on things, and it's maybe more commercially oriented in marketing, which is an important opportunity for the farmer to be staying in business. But it's a great guide to keep in, bookmark on the computer, minnesotagrown.com, or in the glove box as you're driving around, and you could go anywhere in the state and pick a farm to go and visit.
And you sound passionate about that, and there must be some economic advantage to the farmers plus our state if we buy locally. Can you expand on that?
There is, and I will also say that, I think I've said this earlier in the conversation about, breakfast on the farm sounds exciting, but my farm has been run by a bachelor for 20 years, and so right now it is in no condition to have guests on the farm, but it will be someday.
Meg.
It will be someday. But in terms of opportunities for farmers, the farmer keeps a greater share of the food dollar when the product is sold directly to a consumer. And the consumer then has the added advantage of knowing the person who grew their food, being able to ask questions about how it was grown, knowing that it is extremely fresh. And so I think there's some benefits all the way around. Which is not to say that we don't need large commodity farms that produce number 2 yellow corn, feed corn, and produce soybeans and produce hay, because those support the livestock industry and those support some of the processed foods we eat. But in terms of fresh foods that you might be wanting to use in your kitchen, a farmer would love to see you. Stop in at a local farmer's market. They'd love to see you.
Good points. We have about 60 seconds left. Any closing comments?
I want to tag on to that and also mention that the size of the farm doesn't change the outcome of the farm. Animals are still cared for no matter what the size, and there's still a farmer that's the face behind that farm. And so I think it's really an important take-home message to get to know your farmers and to be sure that you're shaking hands and taking advantage of those opportunities to meet those farmers.
Really great points, and I thank you for coming and sharing with the audience. There's some websites. You're very welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I know you traveled a long ways from Stewart County and quite a ways from Le County.
It was a beautiful drive, and I appreciate being included. Thank you.
Well, we enjoyed your conversation, and hopefully you can be on the show again.
Sure.
And anybody that has any questions.
Request us, viewers.
There you go.
Us.
Use the email and call in.
Absolutely.
Go to the websites. And for that, I would like to say, for more information, log on to ksmq.org and click on Farm Connections. There you can find past episodes and participate with the blogs where you can submit your ideas. And don't forget to email the show at farm@ksmq.org. Tune in next time when we continue discussing the impacts on agriculture for all of us. From everyone at Farm Connections, I'm Dan Hoffman. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Meg.